Here
hot
we
mics.
are. What is it? March, was it 2020? Here we are, coronavirus stuff. Going crazy at home, teaching from home. We got me, Matteo DeMiro, and Dean and Curtis. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. You guys want to go first? Why don't you introduce yourself first, Dean?
Sure. My name is Dean Benderman. I teach at Archbishop MC O'Neill Catholic High School in Regina, Saskatchewan. I teach in math and social studies, but I'm also teaching online right now. I've taught a little bit of everything. I've taught communication media. Yeah, it's been a great go. I've even been a computer consultant for a while, then a coach, like our friend Curtis over there. It's a blast. It's a great learning experience, and yeah, I really enjoyed our 832 experience, and I'm really excited about hanging out with you two awesome gents and just having a discussion.
832 sips of coffee, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Curtis, you're next on the docket.
Yes, hi everyone. I am Curtis Barassa. I am an instructional technology consultant with Southeast Cornerstone Public School Division. So this is my second year doing this job, and hopefully I'll be extended for a couple more years. But prior to me doing this, I have taught grade 1 to grade 10 in something. So I kind of have a wide age range of experience in my short teaching career so far, but yeah, so far so good. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm really enjoying right now being able to try to help teachers navigate kind of the crazy world that we live in currently. So
yeah, interesting time to be you. It amazes me that like even after like we've had 2 courses together now, and like I don't know how many intros we've done, like at least 2 or 3, and like I still learn new things about you guys. like every time. So yeah, anyways, I'm Matteo DeMiro, and I teach at Vincent Massey High School in Brandon, Manitoba. I'm on my 10th year of teaching. I started teaching guitar, classical guitar, when I was 14, believe it or not, and that gave me the itch to teach more. And I teach math and computer science. Computer science is relatively new for me, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, just a hobby that I ended up teaching. And don't have a whole lot else to say. I think we'll just introduce our final projects very briefly. And does anyone want to go first, or?
Dean, do you want to go first?
Sure, I don't mind. I guess age before beauty. I think I got a few years on you guys for sure. Unless my friend Bob or my friend Doug want to say a couple of things here, but no. No,
I noticed them.
Yeah, they're just having a curler. I don't know if you've ever watched the show, but they enjoy their Canadian donuts for sure. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this class. I've enjoyed all these classes I've taken. It's an honor to hang out with you two fine men, and I've learned a lot from both of you guys. And yeah, what I've did for my major project is I basically took a look at fact checking, and which turned out, especially during this time, to be a really topical and timely topic. And so what I did for mine is I'm lucky, kind of. I like things like this where you sit down and you talk to people and you listen, and I think I learned a lot from having conversations. So I went into that, and I hooked up a bunch of great guests, with Curtis being one of them. And I had so far I have 9 different podcasts slash YouTube videos, and I basically asked the same questions to all my guests. Like I asked them a little bit something like they do in special, and I had Mary Beth Hertz that we had in our class, and I had his name's Howard Reingold, who's like the guy that wrote NetSmart. So kind of went outside of my box a little bit and tried to connect with people, and people are really good. But the 3 questions that I asked everybody was basically, have you experienced a time where fake news has either affected you personally or in a classroom? Then I asked basically, what kind of tools or strategies do you use to fact check? And then as one thing we talked about last night in our class, which was really timely again, was what's that balance between believing everything that you see on the internet or being totally cynical and not to be polarized, like we were talking about. So that's why last night's conversation was really good. And had so many great conversations. And right now I'm kind of also in the process of trying to do a compilation of taking some of the highlights out from all the videos I haven't put together. I also am creating a lesson, a crap detection lesson. So based on the research that I did, I made a worksheet, that a student could bring out. And when you look at some different websites, some of the tools like Snopes or, reverse image check, or some of the concepts that we learned, like lateral reading, like are you doing all these things? So when they take a look at a website, they can kind of deconstruct it and see if they can check things off and rate that, and check the validity, and just kind of getting used to being a little curious and double checking things out. Even something simple like finding the author and copying and pasting it and seeing what the author's about to see if there's any biases is really cool. So I made a couple of graphics with that too, an infographic, and then there's so much out there that I used our friend. I know Curtis loves the tool as well, Wakelet, and I took all my research. And one thing I need to add is I just kind of dumped everything in there, but I'm going to organize it into different tools or and that type of thing. So hopefully when it's all said and done, I have a resource that if people want to look, they could take a look at my podcast. One little thing I have left to do on it is I want to go into each tool, like this is Snopes, or this is Polycheck, or this is Media Smarts, and make about like a 30-second to a minute little check it out and here's what you can see kind of a things. And then I want to do a little, I've been working on a little video of the lesson and how the lesson could look. So yeah, it's been great. I've learned a ton, and I've become a better fact checker myself, especially with what's going on in our world today. There's lots of things that are like, okay, what's going on here a little bit more, and I've been able to have more tools in my toolbox to be able to see where it's at. I found even a little cool app that I did a video on called Ground News that tells you what Curtis and I were talking about with the media biases. It tells you when the story came out, what all the news agencies are that put out a story on it, and whether they're like right or left, or what their biases are, and that type of thing. So there's a lot of cool tools out there, lots of things on the go. So
And like
yeah, I really enjoyed it.
totally relevant now, right? Like with the whole COVID thing, like being able to fact check all of a sudden is a lot more important because people are more on their own learning at home, right?
Exactly. And,
Definitely.
and I think Nancy kind of talked about in her class about, intergenerational biases. Like you learn a lot from your folks. Back when my folks, anyways, there's maybe what 2 or 3 news places to get your news from, and now there's like 2 to 3 million. So it's so much harder nowadays to really kind of know what your news source is and what the biases are in there. So I think you're exactly right. With something like what's going on in this world today, it's really important that you take it upon yourself to be educated and to you know be aware of what can be said and how people are trying to manipulate you, for sure.
Yeah.
And even more so important, I think, too, now, just looking like lots of our students and lots of the kids that we're working with, they're getting their news from like Twitter or
Social
Facebook
media, yeah.
or Instagram or TikTok or things like that. So I think kind of the work that you've done, Dean, is very important, just because we need to be teaching kids how to get news properly and how to filter those resources. So yeah, you did a really great job. I'd loved following your journey.
Yeah. Well, one thing that inspired me is that when I teach social studies, especially, I use this site called DHMO.org, and it's dihydrogen monoxide. And I kind of slip it in, right? And I just kind of basically tell the kids, like, yeah, did you ever see this site? This is nuts. Like, you can you can die if you have too much, consume it too much at one time. It's found in acid rain. It's found in Hitler gave it to his attack dogs. It's found in cancerous cells. So I say all these things, right? And I actually have a petition, and I say we should ban this, right? Like sounds really bad. And then I pass it around, and kids are just blindly say, well, you should check out the website. And a couple of them look in, and they're all signing off on it. And then I bring an expert in, where they bring a chemistry teacher, and we just find out that dihydrogen is hydrogen, and mono means one oxygen is H2O, and then the kids are like, what? So that
Yeah.
was inspiration behind my project as well. Yeah, I kind of betray my trust I built with them.
I was just
That's
thinking,
all right.
no, but I like obviously the spirit of the exercise is to be like, watch out who you're
Yeah.
listening to, right?
Well, but my theme throughout my class has always been to question everything. Like, you know what I mean? You just never know, right? So
Yeah.
it's an interesting lesson. We're all good after though,
Oh
but
yeah. Well, nowadays, like you said, you can find the news source that speaks just right to you, and they're gonna have some kind of bias, right? So
well, and
watch
like
out.
Curtis said, now with things like Twitter and social media, I think again, I go back to, I think it was one of Nancy's blogs that I read too, in the analytics, like the logarithms see that and they'll just feed you what they think you want to hear, and they'll
Mhm.
keep you on that one, kind of path instead of, opening it up and seeing other perspectives. So that's a really good point, Curtis, about the social media and why it's even so much important with that.
Yeah, I think we need to be broadening our students to all sorts of media, right? And just kind of diversifying the resources that we're giving students, and giving them both sides, and allowing them to kind of make that choice.
Well,
I kind of feel like lots of times in education we only really give the one viewpoint and that sort of thing. So I think it's really important that we kind of allow students to work through some of that themselves and think critically, and then have discussion as class.
well, it's funny too with that DHMO. If you copy that and you just put it in Snopes, right away it says it's a hoax site. So it really, once you start using it, it doesn't have to be time consuming. You can
Yeah.
really find something really quick and
Mhm.
check it out. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. I think that was something that came up in class the other night, was like, at least like I noticed, like based on the letters and things we're getting from administration and like questions from students, is like it's coming to the forefront now, like at least in my division, like how unprepared teachers and students are on the digital literacy and digital citizenship end of things. Um, like nobody expected this stuff to matter so much, and now like we're looking back and we're like, why weren't we doing more of this stuff, and why weren't we looking more at literacy, like digital literacy, and showing kids like those kinds of websites so they can fact check. So I hope that things change after this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it has to. I think we're never going back to where we were after this for sure.
Yeah, who knows what'll happen, like it'll be mandatory online courses now. Or but Dean,
Well,
I was just gonna mention to you, like I would listen to a lot of your podcasts, like when I go for a run or when I was outside in the hot tub. So
you don't
I
fall
definitely
asleep
enjoyed
listening to
your.
them.
No, I totally stay awake, and it's just kind of nice, like sitting there and listening to stuff that was kind of produced, sitting there and I'm like, this is crazy. Like I'm learning so much from like my classmates, and that was probably the number one thing that I like about Alec's courses, and this one in particular was just there's so many amazing people that like inspired me, and you learn better from people that you like, and I found like I like everybody in the class, so it's just so nice to kind of have like a really like when I listen to your podcast, I can be like, I see that guy every Tuesday, and like I kind of like I can reach out to him and chat with him, and he'll answer like immediately. Like it's a really personalized way of learning. It really just makes it very enjoyable. So
Yeah, lots of
gotta
lots
thank
of
both of you
passionate
for that.
people. No,
Yeah,
thank you guys.
and like
I'm
everybody in the class, everybody in
It's
the class.
infectious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like even last night I said I would hang out in this class. I'll be missing it. That's why I'm happy even to do this with you guys. Like I look forward to Tuesday nights just to see what we're gonna talk about. It's just
Mhm.
it's really engaging.
Definitely, certainly. Okay, I'm gonna try to share the screen here. So let's see what happens. I'm not used to being the host.
The hostess with the mostest.
That's me. Okay, I got the share screen thing open. Sure, I'm just gonna share my screen here. Let's see. Okay, you guys can see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we can see
Okay,
your
wonderful.
YouTube.
So my project, like I initially when I started, I was gonna do maybe a bit more along the lines of like investigating, Wakelet and YouTube and just various social media, Twitter. And then like just looking at what you guys were doing, I was like, so many people are already doing like an amazing job on like reviewing these things and whatever. So I kind of thought like I'm gonna be a bit more selfish and just focus on like my use of YouTube. Because at the beginning of this year, I really made a push to start sharing everything I do as far as like computer science and grade 11 and 12 pre-calc on YouTube. just because like so many students were coming and being like, it's so nice when you put the lesson up. And I'm like, okay. And like maybe eventually I can turn this into like a flipped classroom thing where I have like my entire, you know, as far as the content of the course being delivered, because we're so packed in grade 11 and 12 pre-calc, and then maybe we can do some fun activities. So actually, you
I
know,
like that
like,
picture. That's awesome.
oh yeah, so I got my, it's just,
Sorry.
the production values are very low.
No
Like I
way. That's
literally,
awesome.
I
I want
got
to
my
watch that now.
yeah, please don't. But I got my principal to buy me like a tripod. I use my phone. I don't have any special microphones or anything. I literally use my phone, and the sound quality is pretty dang good. And I just record my lecture as is. I started doing like some editing. So it turned into a thing where it was like, you know, 10 minutes to upload into like, now like it takes about, you know, an hour after every video to sort of do some editing, like edit out like really long questions that kids had that kind of break up the lesson too much and just throw that on YouTube. And then I started doing it for computer science. So I started like, can you still see the screen?
Yep.
Now that it changed?
Good.
Okay. So I've been slowly like using OBS. And that's the thing that amazes me is like all the tech that I started using was stuff that students like suggested to me. They're like, you should use open broadcast software to record your screen because there's no time limits and you can do all these things. And then I eventually bought like a mic. So I started like recording like computer science tutorials, and I found that like some of them are getting a lot of views. So like I might, here's just one of them. Like I literally just go through and I just do the code for like a particular project. And kids are like, oh, that's so good because like you go too fast. So now I can go look at that. So there's that. And then I got this idea to, I'm just going to go back here for a second.
I've done that for your last year, so, or last semester, because then I would have used it all for my learning project when I was learning how to code.
Oh, dang, yeah. Yeah, last semester I did like Wakelet with my grade 11 class, and I had them making tutorials and things. Same thing with my grade 12. So like, and we made like a class channel, like a class YouTube channel that we'd upload all our videos to, and then we put together all this stuff for a Wakelet. And then I was like, I'm gonna do that like just on my own for my students. I interviewed one of my colleagues, so that was another thing I was.
I like that interview.
It was good, you know. I'll show you the analytics in a moment, but like it got like for my channel, like having like 30 views on a video is amazing. So it got like a lot of views.
That's just not you hitting refresh.
Yeah, no, that's just it's not. But yeah, that, and he's an amazing guy. Like the way he's using Twitter and Instagram.
No, I really enjoyed that too. He's cool.
And I was gonna do a couple more. I had another one lined up with the drama teacher, and like we had it. We were like, oh, just like either like during spring break or just before spring break, and then all the schools closed.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. But so what I did instead was I started making I'll show you the analytics. I don't want to take too much time, but
no, this is great.
I started getting into Google Analytics. So this is the last 28 days. Like, so at the beginning of January, I had like 39 subscribers, and by February, I had about 130. Now I'm at like 140. So like I almost doubled my subscribers, and like I started playing around with these analytics, and a couple things I noticed, like it's pretty depressing. Like YouTube will tell you like on average how long a video is viewed for.
Yeah.
So like I was looking at my like 30-minute long lectures, and I'm like, like kids are watching like 8 or 9 or 10 minutes, which is like,
exactly.
It's not bad because honestly, like all the concepts come at the beginning, and then it's like, let's do some examples. So like you could potentially maybe walk away knowing, oh, I got a gift from Zoom. Do you guys see that?
Nice. Yeah, unlimited minutes.
Oh, good. That's a good news.
Nice.
But yeah, so like I started looking, and I was like, you know what? If the average view time is like 8 or 9 minutes, then I'm going to make 10-minute math reviews where I just do one concept and like some examples like based on the Manitoba curriculum. That was another big thing that my students like. They're like, you know, like other videos or they go too in depth, or they're for the US. So I was like, okay, I'll just do homegrown Manitoba stuff, like grab questions from like our textbooks, our exams, and make 10-minute math reviews. So
I would add a couple things in there, Matteo. First of all, I love what you're doing, because even with everything that's going on and anything a lot of the research with remote learning right now, you can't make a video that's a half an hour. You got to keep it like 5 to 8 minutes, somewhere in there. And I also think the fact that you're making them, I think that there's more buy-in, especially with your students, because they're familiar with you. They're used to your style, and they get it in that type of thing, and they get your passion even through the videos and that. So this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not revolutionary. I appreciate the comments But yeah, for my students, it's like, that was the thing. I was like, if I can get even 2 kids, like, who are like, great, like you really helped me out at home. Like, I was like, well, that's amazing. That's like, what that's 2 hours or 1 hour of help that like I was able to provide just by putting this up. But yeah, I want to make more of these 10-minute math reviews. I'm just ripping off like the Khan Academy kind of thing. But yeah, like I just introduced the concept, and then I upload the notes to my Google Drive, and I throw it in the description. So you can grab like the blank note package and you can follow along for the lesson. So, I mean, like, it's nothing revolutionary, but like the feedback I've been getting from kids has been really like encouraging for me. And I think the last thing I was going to show you guys, so where is it here? Right. It's just like, if I look at 2019, like I got like 1,000 views in all of 2019. And then I can click on, say, like the last 28 days, and I got like 1,300 views in 28 days. So
Numbers don't lie.
yeah, I was like, you know, like that's amazing. Like, they're tiny numbers, but like I'm seeing some growth, and that really got me wanting to do more.
Yeah.
So what can I say? And you know what? There's one other thing I noticed. This video here, like, it gives you like your top videos in this period. So the last 28 days, this how to rotate any shape video, I made it in 2016 for a grade 9 class. And there's a bit of humor at the beginning, and it has continuously, like, I've been looking at all my periods, it's continuously like at the top of my list. So
That's
I don't
cool.
know, you just never know what's going to end up being useful for people out there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I think you're putting a lot of work in right now in the front end, but down the road, this should save you a lot of time. And I think also too, you can use it in your class, and you'll be able to differentiate your instruction and give a lot of kids, you know, more one-on-one help inside a class. Like when you're talking about the flipped concept, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and that's a great idea. Maybe, like I said, going to the flipped model might be something I want to explore a bit more. Like, now that I have they'll have the videos done, then we can look at that.
Very cool.
That is very cool. It's just super relevant for right now. Like, it's kind of nice that like lots of that stuff you would have had to do regardless now, but it's just kind of became like you were doing it before, and now you're just kind of continuing on. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's all because of like this class, and like just like when last semester when we were looking at the open education movement, like I wasn't 100% on board before that. Like, I was like, yeah, but like, who the hell would want my stuff? And like, you know, like there's already good stuff out there. But then after doing like hearing what everybody had to say in the class, I was like, you know, like maybe I should throw my 2 cents in there. And what it's caused for me is just like a lot of passion. And I'm surprised at like how into I'll be making like lessons. Like, if I have an extra 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I can start a 10-minute math lesson and get it started. Like, it's unlike me. So
Well, and then the thing with that is that sometimes you don't know what's going to click for somebody else, right? So when you put something out there, you just might speak to somebody that nobody else has before. So that's really cool.
thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please do.
You guys can.
Okay.
You're way faster at sharing your screen than I was.
Ready. Hey, you guys can see this?
Yeah.
You betcha.
Okay,
Yeah,
so what I decided to do was I decided to build another website on Wakelet, showcasing 3 of the tools that I was going to, that I did research. First one being TikTok, and I'll be honest, TikTok was one that I was really interested in at the start of the year, and then it kind of has died off a little bit on me. I thought, kind of, you know, playing around with it personally, I don't think that I would ever feel comfortable using it in my class. I do think that there could be some educational value, maybe from the teacher side, like if I was creating, you know, engaging videos for kids. But that being said, I don't think I'd feel comfortable using that one in the classroom with students, giving them an option to use it, just because of, you know, the privacy issues kind of surrounding TikTok right now. And I'm just kind of playing around. I think there's a lot of questionable content that goes on TikTok that I wouldn't feel comfortable being an educator being surrounded with. So there's that there. And I kind of did 6 different pieces. So each one of mine has an overview. I go into privacy in terms of service. That's something that I really wanted to focus on. Being in the role that I'm in, we think privacy is very important, and it's something that I really haven't dove into very much in the tools that I use. So I think this is a really good opportunity for me to develop a practice of going through and looking at those different privacy policies in terms of service. And then we have educational value. So whether or not I think it's useful in the classroom, key features in the app. Oops, and that one I have not done yet.
This is amazing, Curtis, by the way. I'm loving like how you set this up.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I was really
Curtis,
impressed.
are you thinking about ever hyperlinking your banners on the front page?
You know what? I thought about doing that.
'Cause that's what I was clicking on first.
I know, and I thought, I was like, you know what? I should probably try to figure that out, because I feel like a lot of people are like either going to miss my buttons and be like, "Oh, he didn't do anything."
That's what I did. I'm like, hey, I thought it must be.
Well, you got these big, beautiful banners. Might as well make it clickable, I think. Yeah.
I'll have to play around with them after and see if I can get that going. And then I'd go into Seesaw, and some of the things in here that I really I want to kind of showcase is, so I also did some interviews. With Seesaw, I did 3 interviews. I did 2 with our classmates, and then I also interviewed a lady from Texas that I attempted to screen record and ended up losing everything. That was a kind of a devastating day for me. But instead I just blogged about it and then posted it there. But yeah, and then I also took the Seesaw Ambassador program, which is a really great program for, I would say, K to even like up into high school, like K to 9, K to 10. It's just a super easy app for your kids to use and store work and create a digital portfolio.
Lee and Sarah, you picked 2 good people to talk to. Those 2 ladies are awesome.
Yes, yeah, and both of them have used Seesaw in their classes, and some of the work that they're doing is awesome. And then the last one is Wakelet, and this is the one I interviewed Dean with as well. And I think just going in and learning more about the products and seeing how relevant they can be in the classroom, and trying to develop a resource that I can send to teachers to help maybe promote the resource and to kind of highlight some of the things that they can do in the class, I think is really important. So there's that there. And then I also did a little bit I created some infographics as well. I did one for Wakelet and then one for my Seesaw one as well. And yeah, so I don't know. It's just kind of a fun little resource that I kind of picked away at over the semester. And yeah, so I think the last thing that I need to do is I'm just going to finish developing my additional resource pages on each of them. And I think pretty much I'll be done. So.
The graphics look great. What did you use to make those?
So I use something called Canva. So have you ever heard of Canva before?
Yep.
No. Well, so who was sharing? Was it Adobe
Spark?
Spark, like who? That's for videos, right?
So you can do this with Spark too a little bit.
Oh,
yeah. So I kind of did a mixture, yeah. So my infographics and stuff I did in here. So lots of my different pictures and that sort of thing. I just kind of built in here, and then I also did some in Adobe Spark as well.
And that's free, like Canva.
Canva right now is free for educators. Yeah. I think you
right
just have
now
to,
or.
I think they opened it up. So I don't know if it's a permanent thing, but I know that they did. They opened it up before the whole COVID thing. So it's definitely been a while since it's out, but they kind of have to go through like an approval process, I believe. So our school division purchased our team kind of a license for it. So, but yeah, Adobe Spark is also free, and I use that quite a bit. Kind of with like lots of my video editing and that sort of thing, but it's also really nice for some of the.
I was gonna ask, is there any advantage to signing in as a teacher or student on Adobe Spark?
I think if you sign in as a teacher in Adobe Spark, that's how you get the free stuff. So
okay, like
how
you
you
just
get the
use your
free
divisional email or whatever, and then that's okay.
Yeah, and our division also subscribes to it too. So
yeah, same here.
Kind of a long process to get in here though.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal that code. I saw that code flash up on the.
You're gonna pause the video after. Did you put a password on the Zoom, Matteo?
Yeah.
No, I did not on this
Oh no,
meeting. No, no.
we're gonna get bombed.
We're gonna get Zoom bombed.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make a new friend. Who knows?
Yeah.
We can teach them about digital citizenship and why what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, as you can kind of see, like, yeah, lots of my kind of videos that I've done for the past 2 classes, I've just done them in Adobe Spark. It's such an easy program to use.
I can't believe, like, I mean, I've heard of Adobe Spark, like, at some point, but I don't understand. I'm a little upset why I only really heard about it yesterday. There's like, there was so many, I had to pay for like a video editing thing that I used for the one video that we did in the class. And like, that was my choice.
Yeah.
But like, Spark would have been way better.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
Yeah.
No, Curtis, but when I was looking through your site, I really just went right to it goes about knowing people and that. So I went right to your personal review on all of yours because I'm like, okay, whatever Curtis says on here, like that's, I know whether it's good or not, that type of thing. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was the same, Chris. Like it's like I read your stuff. It's easy to read. I love your webpage. And I think it was one of you guys who said like Wakelet, like you can use it like instead of using PowerPoint, like use Wakelet. You can have a more open like presentation. I think it was one of you guys who said that in the course, or maybe it was Alec.
I did my video using Wakelet, and I had all my resources in, even for a little thing that we had.
Yeah,
I used Screencast-O-Matic and went through it.
Yeah, because someone said that in class. It was one of you guys or Alec, and then I had like a presentation like 2 or 3 weeks later, and I was like, I'm gonna try that. I used Wakelet, and it was awesome. Like it was way better than like using a PowerPoint and more open. Like everyone could see what was there, and like, oh, we'll just jump to this section and talk about that, and then we'll go back. I
just
love
share your link, and they have all your resources.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss not having a course with Alec next semester. You guys are both in the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, I got 2 left.
Yeah. Wow. That's perfect. That's almost a perfect segue into sort of like, and we sort of talked about it a bit, but like, maybe we should just wrap up and just talk about what is the biggest takeaway from this course, and maybe the last one too. I kind of feel like it's just a continuation, but what's the biggest takeaway from this course or the last one? Anyway.
Well,
why do you mind? Sorry, Dean, did you want to go first?
No, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. I was going to say, I might steal Dean's thunder a little bit here,
That's
but
okay.
Honestly, I really think one of the biggest learning here is some of the stuff that you did around like lateral reading and cross-checking and kind of making sure that we're providing resources and opportunities for students to do those checks. And I think that is one of the most valuable things that, I know I didn't do a good job of. I think lots of teachers probably don't do a good job of, and it's something that we really need to start promoting. And so I think that piece in digital citizenship is huge. And just, like learning about the, like Mike Gribble.
Yep.
Okay, good. Mike Gribble's, his different, like the 9 parts of digital citizenship. I think that is also like an important thing just to kind of keep in the back of my mind when I'm doing my job, and just kind of going back to those, and also knowing that that doesn't include everything, but at least that's kind of a starting point for us to go to when we're trying to teach digital citizenship. So that's kind of one of my big takeaways from the course.
Certainly. Yeah. Like it's just uncanny to me, Dean, like the CRAAP detection. Good name, by the way. Like
I didn't make that up. It was there before.
Right. Yeah, I thought so, but like still, good job piggybacking off that.
I used the poop emoji though, so that's good.
Like it just suddenly became so relevant, right? Like the last 3-4 weeks with the pandemic and everything slowly shutting down, it was just uncanny to see how all of these things that we're learning in this class, like just all of a sudden like came to the forefront, and like all of a sudden everybody's talking about like, okay, well, what can we do online? Like what resources can we use? How do we make sure they're good resources? Like it was just so, like, at least for me, to watch it all unfold and to go from talking about it with you guys, that, 20 people in the class, to like all of a sudden everybody in my division is talking about this stuff. was just such an experience. And it made me realize like, wow, like I've learned, like me personally, I've learned so much and have been so inspired by like everybody in the course. But definitely like I got my go-tos, like, you know, like Dean, Curtis, and a couple others. It's just like you find like the people who are kind of in doing the same things that interest you, or maybe they're doing stuff like that where someday you hope to get there. Like I hope someday I can be like half as good as Dean or like half as good as Curtis. You know, like
you're already better, man.
no, like that's what I love about this course. Was like the number one takeaway, like for me, was just the community of educators that seem to gather. Like I don't know if it's the people who take Alex's class. I don't know if it's the way he runs it. It's just I've taken a lot of online courses, and the experience in these ones are something else. And like the amount of learning that goes on is incredible. So.
Yeah, but you stole my thunder. That's what I was.
Oh, dang, sorry.
No, but I'd like to echo that too. You know, like I've been using EdTech ever since I've been teaching for, you know, over 20 years and stuff. And I've always felt like an island unto myself sometimes. And, you know, I'm trying to share things with people and people just weren't interested and stuff. And, you know, now it's coming. I think there's that quote that teachers that don't use technology will be replaced by those who do. And it's just, yeah, it's totally exploded what's happening right now. And that's what I liked about the class is just, you know, even learning something about TikTok. I probably wouldn't have checked out TikTok on my own. I mean, I'm not really into that, you know, but I learned a lot. Like even what you're talking about too, and just thinking more in what Curtis had in his stuff, you know, looking at the terms of service. You know, I always go back to like iTunes or whatever. Yeah, whatever. And I agree, right? You don't really look at it. And now with what's happening, teachers are throwing kids in all these different sites and all these different things. And have you read the terms of service? Oh yeah, Zoom's awesome. Get in there, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's really made me more thoughtful, the class. It's really, you know, challenged me a lot of ways. I like to hear different people's perspectives. You know, I really like that we go all the way to elementary to higher learning. And then we've had people like, you know, like Callan and Natalia and Nancy that are kind of not really in the education sector, but I've always appreciated to hear what they have to say from kind of a different perspective and all that. And I just think, yeah, Alec really knows what he's doing with the class. He really lets us learn from each other quite a bit. There's lots of flexibility involved, and it's what learning should be, and that's what even with this pandemic thing, that's what I'm hoping my students will do. Like I'm really hoping they get into it and explore their learning, because I think that's what we had a really chance to do. And you know, yeah, just a really good group of people. I like, you know, using Zoom and getting to their breakout rooms. I think he got onto us, Matteo, because the last couple of breakout rooms we didn't get to hang out.
I think Alec was keeping us apart. Like,
yeah,
it's actually all three of us would often be in the same room. And then after we mentioned it, it never happened again. And it was like all last semester. So
exactly. So, but yeah, it just I really enjoyed those, because sometimes, you know, when you're in a bigger group session, like I might have a comment, but I don't always want to come off the guys talking all the time and let other people and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed the smaller groups like this, where you know, it's just like this is an epitome of what the class is. I think what we're doing here, just having a good conversation, you know, sums up what the class is all about. Me, like meeting good people, you know, doing some research and then sharing it and having a good conversation, because I think we all want to get better, and that's why we took this class too. So yeah, that's what I appreciate. There's definitely lots of opportunities to get better in this class and build a community. Like long after this class, I'm hoping I'm hanging out with you guys once in a while doing this and seeing you guys on the Twitter sphere. And, you know, I'd definitely like to hang out with you guys and go golfing, meet in Whitewood or something, and go on the golf course, because I really admire both you guys, and I think you guys are really cool. And that's definitely been a huge takeaway for this class for me.
It's a mutual sentiment. Somehow you managed to top both of our speeches.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow.
I don't know about that.
Social distancing.
I think it's because Doug here was whispering in my ear for the whole time. You see that?
Got 3 brains over there. That's enough. Yeah, I gotta say, like the way that we can morph in this class, the way Alec lets us do that, like when I saw Curtis was doing, like when I saw Curtis's plan was similar to mine, I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore because he's gonna do an amazing job. Like I'll spend my time doing something else. So, and we got the flexibility to do that. Like, and Amanda was like interviewed Ribble and a couple,
Yeah.
like just the quality of work, like just
Yeah,
blows me.
her stuff, her podcast, I hope it keeps taking off.
Yeah.
If you go to Voice Ed Radio, I think she got on with those guys. They're based out of like Ontario and stuff, and that's something I would do down the road too. Is I've talked to those guys and stuff, but I do enjoy the conversations.
Yeah. And it's, you know what, the more like I'm getting in, because I wasn't huge into social media like before, like now I'm really seeing the value, but like the more that I get into it, the more I'm realizing like it's actually a pretty small like education world, you know,
Definitely.
like I was in Vancouver for a conference and I ran into like Mark Spooner, like one of the profs, like at U of R. Like it's just like it's such a small little world, and everybody is on Twitter. And like when we did the SaskEd chat, like I got to connect with a lot of amazing people, and now I have them on Twitter, and like we can chat. Like it's we have so many opportunities nowadays, but like just nobody, like it seems like many people aren't taking advantage. I certainly wasn't like 6 months ago, like compared to what I'm doing now. Like and it's all because of you guys. It's all because of like just seeing what you guys are doing, and I was like, wow, it's really not that hard, and I can reach out and get help from anybody in this class. This is such a great environment. So
no, I hear you on that. There is so many great people out there, passionate people that you can connect with. And yeah, you always want to grow your professional learning network. Like I find that SaskEd chat, just some really good people on there. I've done a couple other ones that are really good too. There's lots of opportunities to grow and learn and get better. And yeah, if I thought I knew everything, I'd be lying. That's why I love teaching so much too. There's always room to get better, and I think what the class promotes is lifelong learning, and I think that's another key element of it. Like you really can take your learning where you want it, and being a master's class, we all have other lives and stuff. It also allows us to, Curtis is planning a wedding. You've got little, you got kids. I got, kids, and all that kind of stuff, and it really allowed you to. But you wanted to go do your learning because you're into it and stuff too. So it didn't seem like an add-on. It seemed like, and it was really good that way as well for me.
Yeah. This is amazing. We ought to keep this going, or maybe I think at this point, what do you think, we should sign off?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be willing to get together with you guys, and we could do Three Amigos podcast or something too. Throw a topic out and just spitball it. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah. What do you? We could. I'll stop the recording, I think, at this point.
Sure.
Or I'll edit.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. It was a blast.
EC&I 832 rules.
832 steps.
What do you have to say, Bob? Oh yeah, he says take off, eh?
I didn't realize. Look at the smirk. Look at that side like thing he's going together. All right, you guys. It's a blast.
It was a beauty.
I'm gonna hit stop.